Today I am joined by Dr. Anirban Ganguly, who is the chairman of the Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation. He is also the member of BJP's National Executive Committee. He has authored many books, which includes Amit Shah and the March of BJP, Modi Doctrine, and the current one, which we are holding in our hand, from Partition to Progress. So, welcome, sir. Thanks
you
for joining.
Thank you, Bikramjeet. I'm extremely happy to connect with you, and I'm delighted that you reached out to me for a discussion on the book. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir. So, how the idea came to your mind of writing a book on this topic?
You know, this idea has been there with me for quite some time, and I'm certainly not the first one to write a book on this topic. But this got strengthened during that phase when CAA was passed, and we saw a number of provocative statements being made by responsible leaders and trying to mislead people in general about the intention and the intention behind and the history of the CAA. I wrote a series of articles then. And then it was there with me, to develop this into a book. I got some time. Primarily, I was concerned with this, distortion on the one hand and silence on the other hand. When it came to the history of the partition of India on the Eastern Front. And this entire attempt to whitewash, to suppress the ordeal that Bengali Hindus went through after partition. And for decades, this attempt by an influential political and intellectual section to try and blanket this completely, to marginalize that narrative and to suppress that history. And when I went through Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee's papers, his speeches in Parliament, later in the Lok Sabha, his extensive correspondences during that period, his extensive travel across Bengal during that period, the kind of support that he evoked from a large section of people as well as leaders, that made me, that pushed me to come out with this concise volume, but with certain facts also, not highlighted before, again presented in its pages. Primarily the way Congress under Nehru, then the communists tried to suppress this entire episode. Nehru's unwillingness to undertake an complete exchange of population. The communist support to Jinnah and the demand for Pakistan and to his Muslim League. All that has been explained here. And the creation of West Bengal. A section of historians, Indian historians in the West, and Western historians influenced by Indian historians have come out with this peculiar narrative that the creation of West Bengal was a Hindu, Bhadralok, upper class. I mentioned this in my book. It's an upper class kind of a project. And it had Bengal would have done better without being partitioned. I think that's a very spurious.
Suravati tried that.
Even Suravati tried. You must have read it in the book, that united sovereign Bengal, a Bengal which is united, which neither goes to India nor to Pakistan, but in a Bengal where the Muslims are in a majority and which has a Muslim League government. So that is when Shyama Prasad asked that,
to Mountbatten
and to Gandhiji also, saying that, it's all right. You see, that's the photograph where Shyama Prasad is sitting with Gandhiji. And that's when this discussion took place. That he said, you see, I have no problem in principle of a united sovereign Bengal. But can Suravati give it in writing that once united sovereign Bengal is formed, that Bengal, that the Muslim League, with its majority in the assembly of that Bengal, will not pass a resolution which would say that Bengal will merge, the united sovereign Bengal will merge itself into Pakistan.
Okay.
So Suravati was not willing to give that undertaking. And Gandhiji realized the deeper conspiracy, the deeper ruse behind that.
But Suravati was going against the Muslim League on that time, against Jinnah. because he wanted a separate province for him.
I think that going against Jinnah was just it was a posturing.
Okay.
Because you apparently you appear to go against Jinnah, and you make Bengal united, you keep her undivided. I mean, you keep her undivided and make her sovereign as a separate country. But then the country that, hypothetically, that country called Bengal would be ruled by the Muslim League.
True.
So there was no guarantee that that Muslim League, with its, because the Hindus were just 46% in undivided Bengal. They were in a minority. So there was no guarantee that that Muslim League would push through a legislation which would ask that Bengal and the Muslim League government to merge that separate country with Pakistan. You must remember that Jinnah wanted Calcutta very desperately.
Yes.
So Shama Prasad threw a spanner into that plan. And Sardar Patel also very famously, he had told Jinnah had asked for 6 months, joint control of Calcutta for 6 months.
Okay.
He had asked that. So Sardar Patel said, why 6 months, not even for 6 hours? And the moment Shama Prasad pushed through the demand for the creation of West Bengal, Jinnah realized that obviously capital of West Bengal would be Calcutta.
So you talked about the Nehru-Liaquat Pact in this book. A large portion has been talked about this, and how Shama Prasad Mukherjee opposed it. So it was all about peace. It talks about peace. Then why he opposed it?
Actually, you see, it was not so much about peace, because it was a maneuvering that Liaquat undertook because he wanted to save Pakistan. The demand had then arisen, before the Nehru-Liaquat Pact. Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee, Sardar Patel were very vocal that if Pakistan was incapable of taking care of its minorities, it must cede land in proportion to its population of minorities.
Okay.
So that these minorities could be settled there in safety. So basically, it was a call, it was a warning to Pakistan that if you don't, come online, come on board, you risk being dismembered. Nehru opposed that demand. Nehru had a problem with that demand, and that's why he even brought in the First Amendment, which would curb freedom, free speech, and expression, because he did not want Shama Prasad Mukherjee to continuously demand for the vivisection of Pakistan. Shama Prasad Mukherjee said, initially he had said that I divided Pakistan. So Jinnah got a moth-eaten Pakistan. Now after that, Shama Prasad's contention was that if Pakistan is unable to protect its minorities, we must take away land from Pakistan where the minorities could be settled. That means it would have been a second division, second moth-eaten Pakistan, and nothing of Pakistan would have that way remained.
After they lost Calcutta, now
they would lose more territory. They could, Rangpur could go, Chittagong could go, all this, Khulna could go. So the Chittagong hill tracts could go. So all these would have been then taken away so that the minorities could be settled there. Now, Liaquat brought in this pact, suggested to Nehru. He said that, we give an undertaking that we'll take care of our minorities, and you give an undertaking that you'll take care of your minorities. Shama Prasad opposed that, and that's why there's this entire chapter, on Congress's doublespeak and its neglect of refugees. That repeatedly, a number of even Congress members of Parliament at that time, and Shama Prasad and others, said that, look, we will take care of our minorities because we are under a secular constitution and we are taking care of our minorities. But we can guarantee to you, they told Nehru that we can give you a guarantee that Pakistan will never take care of its minorities. It's just a ploy, just a ploy to buy time by Liaquat. Nehru did not want to believe that. In April 1950, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee resigned from the cabinet on this issue. And April 1950, the Nehru-Liaquat Pact was inked. Now, just after this, by June, July, August, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee gives statistics. In Parliament, there was a debate in August 1950, where he gives statistics and says how the Nehru-Liaquat Pact has failed. While it succeeded on the Indian side, it completely failed on the Pakistan side. They did not give protection to minorities.
You mentioned about Sam Sharan Singh.
No, Swaran Singh. Yes, Swaran Singh. Exactly. You see, Swaran Singh was one of the longest serving external affairs minister of India. He was in fact dismissed by Mrs. Gandhi because he did not support emergency. Okay. So in 1966, Janasangh leader Niranjan Verma, in a question in Rajya Sabha, asked Sardar Swaran Singh. These questions were: what is the present position of Nehru-Liaquat Pact, which was concluded in 1950? Mm-hmm. Are both countries still acting according to the terms of the pact? Since what year has been Pakistan violating the pact? Very interesting. You see, Swaran Singh was a dyed-in-wool congressman. He was one of the longest serving external affairs minister under the Congress regime. Swaran Singh says the Nehru-Liaquat Pact of 1950 is a standing agreement between India and Pakistan. It requires each country to ensure its minorities, etc., etc. Second question was, though in India the rights and security of minorities have been continuously and effectively safeguarded, Pakistan has persistently contravened the provisions of the pact through consistent neglect and harassment of the members of the minority community, close quotes. And the third question, Swaran Singh's answer to the third question is more crucial. He says, the instances of such violations started coming to notice almost immediately after the inception of the pact. This is in 1966, 16 years after the Nehru-Liaquat Pact. Congress External Affairs Minister accepts that from day one, from the word go, the Pakistanis continuously, almost immediately, started violating the pact. This is exactly what Shyama Prasad Mukherjee was saying in August 1950. He gave statistics. And long after he was dead and gone, in 1966, Swaran Singh is saying the same thing. So this is, these are the things that I have basically tried in the book.
It's interesting that not only Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, but Rishi Aurobindo also opposed the Nehru-Liaquat Pact.
Yes, he was very clear, Sri Aurobindo, and I have mentioned it here, because in April 1950, Sri Aurobindo was still there. And he clearly says that this was a very clever attempt by Liaquat to save himself and to save Pakistan. Sri Aurobindo had seen it through. And he was very clear also that this is not going to, this pact is not going to in any way alleviate the sufferings of the minorities, the Hindus. It's only going to increase. And this is nothing more than a move by Liaquat, as I said, to save himself and to save Pakistan. And it's there in a letter that Sri Aurobindo wrote around that time.
Okay.
It's there in a letter in his, in his correspondences, one finds that letter. I believe he wrote this letter to one of his disciples who was based out of Bombay and would bring out an English weekly from Bombay.
Okay. Now coming on Ambedkar, Dr. Ambedkar, so he advocated for the minorities in the East Pakistan and the West Pakistan also. Am I right?
Yes. You see, he was very clear that there should be complete exchange of population.
Which he mentioned in his book.
He mentioned in his book when the book appeared in 1940. In fact, he was very hard on the Congress also in that book. And he told the Congress in that book that, don't keep giving concessions to the Muslims. Because the more you give them concessions, they'll take it as a weakness. So Hindus and Congress must not give concession. And Dr. Ambedkar was very clear that exchange of population was required for a peaceful existence. And if you didn't do that, it would create complications later. And of course, I have mentioned in the book, you must have noticed Dr.
P.R. Thakur.
P.R. Thakur, all of them who supported the demand for a separate West Bengal homeland.
You also mentioned J.N. Mondal.
Jogendranath Mandal. I think he's the classic case, and I mentioned here the classic case of Jogendranath Mandal is he was of Dr. Ambedkar's party,
Okay.
and he became the first law and labor minister of Pakistan. They had a coalition with the Muslim League, and Jogendranath Mandal was one of the firmest advocates of United Bengal and Bengal going into Pakistan.
Okay.
He supported the Muslim League demand for Pakistan at one time.
But his guru is Ambedkar ji.
His guru was Ambedkar, political guru was Ambedkar. But then what happened was, by May 1950, Jogendranath Mandal realized that it was impossible for minorities to live, to survive, let alone with dignity, let alone, dignity is a very far word, but even survive in East Pakistan, in East Bengal, because the Muslim League was pushing for an Islamic constitution and a state. And I have quoted here a conversation that Jogendranath Mandal had with the correspondent of The Hindu, who was based in Kolkata at that time. He had a secret, correspondent of the Hindu newspaper, and yes, of the Hindu newspaper, and he had a conversation with secret conversation with Jogendranath Mandal, where he says that it is very difficult for us to survive here, and earlier I would look upon myself as a leader of the Dalits. Now I look at myself as a leader of the Hindus, and unless India does something, it's very difficult for us to survive here. 8,000 word resignation letter, and then he says that we can't live long here. So finally he got that. He understood, and Dr. Ambedkar in fact clearly called upon the Dalits. He says that I would like to tell the scheduled castes who happen today to be impounded inside Pakistan to come over to India by such means as may be available to them. The second thing I want to say is that it would be fatal for the scheduled castes, whether in Pakistan or in Hyderabad, to put their faith in the Muslims or the Muslim League. It has become a habit with the scheduled castes to look upon the Muslims as their friends simply because they dislike the Hindus. This is a mistaken view. This was reported on 28 November 1947 in the Free Press Journal. This was during Dr. Ambedkar's lifetime. So I think these are very serious points, that how Nehru deliberately treated the Bengali Hindu refugees differently.
He saw with a different eye when it comes to East Pakistan, and he saw it with a different eye when it comes to Punjab.
Actually, he did that deliberately, because he wanted the Liaquat Pact to succeed.
Okay.
And then he wanted to also appear very secular on the Kashmir issue.
Okay. For what?
For getting international, approval, recognition, etc. He wanted the Liaquat Pact to succeed also because it was a prestige issue for him. So he kept saying that the Bengali Hindu refugees must go back to Pakistan, must go back to from where they came, regardless of what happens to them. And they'll be taken care of. And so he did not provide them rehabilitation.
You mentioned that not
rehabilitation, only relief.
True.
So he provided them relief, and with the sense that they would go back.
But later he realized.
I mean, he couldn't do anything about it. He realized, and the most interesting part is that, and I have quoted this in the book, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee says that just after partition, from Muslims went from West Bengal to East Bengal. When West Bengal was created, Muslims who were on this side, who had stayed back in West Bengal, went over to East Bengal. And Hindus were pushed out of East Bengal into West Bengal. Muslims who went to East Bengal, most of them came back to live in India. The Hindus could never go back to their ancestral land in East Bengal. So all this is there. All these angles are there.
You mentioned about Pandit Lakshmikanta Moitro.
Yes.
So tell us about bit him, how he encountered Nehru, his interaction with Nehru.
No, he Pandit Lakshmikanta Moitro was the first member of Lok Sabha. He was first member of parliament from Navadvip. At that time, Navadvip was like today. It's you don't have a Navadvip Lok Sabha anymore.
Okay.
Today you have Krishnanagar, you have Krishnanagar, you have then Ranaghat, and it's like that. You don't have a Navadvip Lok Sabha. In those days, after delimitation, that Lok Sabha has gone. But in those days, there used to be Navadvip, and Lakshmikanta Moitro was the was first member of parliament from there. Now, he was extremely clear. In fact, even before the Nehru Liaquat Pact, and he was a member of the Constituent Assembly. He was a great. He was an extremely erudite, knowledgeable, extremely established. He was a legend. He continues to be. People have forgotten him, but he continues to be a legendary name in Bengal politics and in overall in Bengali, in the Bengali psyche. Though he was a congressman, but he was extremely close to Shama Prasad. In fact, he died just within 10 days of Shama Prasad's death. He was so attached to him. Together with Shama Prasad, Pandit Lakshmikanta Moitro went around, Nadia. He went around the entire district, traveling with Shama Prasad, standing with the refugees, meeting them, working for their rehabilitation, relief camps, etc. And he was quite advanced in age at that time also. Now, he in March 1950, during this debate in Parliament, he clearly told Nehru, it's this Liaquat Pact. It's like spraying salt water on open wounds, and I can tell you that the Pakistan will never stand by its commitment. And why, he asked Nehru, why are you trying to clamp down on speech, on free speech? Why are you trying to clamp down on the press and the media, the Indian media? Why are you not letting them report the actual situation?
They talked about the suppressing of news in East Pakistan.
In East Pakistan also. And Nehru, said that I went around the camps in Ranaghat. I saw many of them were coming with they're carrying jewelries with them also. So Pandit Moitro, told him, because Nehru, he came across at times to be quite naive. He said, obviously, the Pakistani establishment knew that you, as Prime Minister of India, you are camping in Kolkata for the last 10 days, and that you are going around and touring the border areas. So obviously, earlier they would rob refugees of everything. Now that you're coming, they made sure that they allow them to come in with certain of their belongings, so that you have the impression that the Pakistanis are allowing them to bring in their belongings, which they are in reality not allowing.
You also mentioned about Shamor Guho, so how he opposed the Liaquat Pact. So tell us about Shamor Guho.
You see, Shamor Guho was a very close, he was an admirer of Netaji. He had seen Netaji at a very young age. And Shamor Guho was identified with the forward bloc, with Netaji, with the Netaji movement, with the Netaji thought and everything. He was a socialist basically. Okay. And Shamor Guho was never an BJP or an RSS person. But throughout, he was a veteran parliamentarian, very well known also. Shamor Guho, I quoted Shamor Guho extensively from his writings on the condition of minorities in East Pakistan, in East Bengal, and the kind of atrocities that they were put to. Shamor Guho describes how Dhaka, which used to be one of the centers of Janmashtami celebration, gradually all that stopped. Now you have ISKCON priests being arrested in Dhaka. Yes. So it's come a full circle actually. And then Shamor Guho writes how gradually the Hindus in Bangladesh were disenfranchised. They were gradually removed from services. They lost their occupation. Temples lost their land. Their lands were occupied. So it's very interesting. If you read Shamor Guho's description of East Bengal, East Pakistan in early 1950s and later on, I've quoted Prabhash Lahiri, who was also a well-known freedom fighter, and he was a minister in East Pakistan also, East Pakistan. I've quoted them just to show that what the situation was then, and that exactly that was the period when the Nehru Liaquat Pact was just being inked and had been inked around that time. So essentially, nothing changed then.
You also mentioned about some Hindu leaders or minority leaders of East Pakistan who came to Jaipur session.
Yes, yes, exactly. They were, they came to the Jaipur session, and they came and asked. They had come basically to submit a memorandum to Nehru, asking him to look at the uh, condition of Bengali Hindus and their post partition when they came away, their condition, etc. So very interesting that Nehru said that your issue must be taken to the Foreign Affairs Department of AICC.
Yes, yes, you mentioned it.
So in the sense that he was already looking at them at that point of time, just a few just a few months
But
after.
they also did the same struggle which the Congress.
Absolutely, they were congressmen. I mean, this happened in January 1948. India achieved independence in August 1947. So within 6 months, Nehru started treating them as foreigners, and they were congressmen. They were some of the tallest leaders, some of the senior most leaders in East Pakistan, in East Bengal. And when they come to Jaipur session, trying to speak to him, he says that, take this issue to the AICC's Foreign Affairs Department Bureau.
So you talked about the undivided, the division of Bengal that Mr. Mukherjee advocated. And G.D. Birla also supported that movement. You said that in your book. So tell us about that a bit, and how Suravadi was trying to make a separate nation.
You see, at that time, not only it was the Kolkata business establishment on the one hand, it was the intelligentsia, members of the intelligentsia of Bengal on the other hand. There were Dalit leaders on the other hand, led by people like P.R. Thakur and others.
Yes.
Rajbongshi leaders on the one hand, all got together, came across in support of this demand for the creation of West Bengal. Because the Kolkata establishment, I mean, like people like G.D. Birla expressed solid support to Dr. Mukherjee's proposal for partitioning Bengal. The Chamber of Commerce, in its meeting on 30th April 1947, supported the partition of Bengal. On June 1st, 1947, again, Dr. Mukherjee reiterated this demand. And so what I have tried to show here, and it is evident, it's there, it's all recorded, it's part of history, that this was a demand which was supported across the board from various cross section, the legal fraternity, the business establishment, the intelligentsia. You had people like R.C. Majumdar, Jadunath Sarkar, Suniti Kumar Chatterjee, Radha Kumud Mukherjee, all coming out in support of this demand. So there was no, it was beyond caste. It was the Bengali Hindu identity. It was the Hindu identity which drove these leaders, because they realized P.R. Thakur, I've quoted P.R. Thakur here. P.R. Thakur was he was extremely clear. And give me a minute, because it's a very strong statement that P.R. Thakur makes. He said that he says that depressed classes were the original inhabitants of this country. This is P.R. Thakur saying, India belongs to us, and we cannot tolerate the idea that this ancient mother country of ours will be divided between Muslims and the caste Hindus only. We strongly repudiate any claim of the Muslim League to take away our beloved Bengal and constitute her into Pakistan. We shall fight tooth and nail to maintain the integrity of India intact. And he also told the Constituent Assembly how the Muslim League in Bengal was trying to get support of a section of the depressed classes to try and pave the way for that fantastic Pakistan. But unfortunately, this section of depressed classes is very small. Thakur appealed to this Constituent Assembly to see that nothing was done in regard to Bengal without the consent of the depressed classes who were in overwhelming numbers. And he came out completely in support of Shyama Prasad Mukherjee's demand. Sure. There were leaders like Vijay Krishna Sarkar, scheduled caste MLA from the Congress. who opposed Jogendranath Mandal's call for including Bengal in Pakistan. So if you look at all these, you see the Rajbangshis led by their leader Premhari Burman, a member of the Bengal Legislative Assembly, lent support to the partition demand, arguing that the SCs were attending meetings in support of partition in large numbers, and that it was only Mr. Mandal who was close to the League and a few of his followers who opposed this demand. And there was this meeting at the University Institute Hall in June, on 27th May 1947, where leaders like Babu Jagjivan Ram and Dr. Rajendra Prasad in attendance. The meeting passed an emphatic resolution in support of creating a separate province by partitioning Bengal. The resolution said that since the Muslim League is determined to include the entire Bengal in Pakistan, this conference resolves that a separate province be formed comprising of such and such to be included in the Union of India. And a third condemned the act. A second resolution rejected the sovereign Bengal or free Bengal scheme independent of the Indian Union. So you had Babu Jagjivan Ram, you had Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and the leaders that I named, including P.R. Thakur, all came out in support of this creation of West Bengal. The tragedy is that Congress leaders themselves don't know their history. You have Mr. Jairam Ramesh continuously, sometimes, he gets into a fit of tweets.
You talked about the CAA and Kapil Sibal.
Yes, they all of them, they are so confused about their own history. Their entire Bengal Congress, including the CWC, supported Shyama Prasad Mukherjee's proposal for creation of West Bengal. Where are they? Where do they live?
Criticized Adil Ranjan Chaudhary.
Yes.
And there was a clash between B.C. Roy and Jawaharlal Nehru on the migration issue.
Yes. No, that clash was because, Dr. Roy said that on the one hand, you're not providing rehabilitation. And what you're providing for relief is nothing. It is a pittance. And there is a discrimination against the Bengali Hindu refugees on this count with their counterparts in Punjab. So Dr. Roy was very emphatic about that.
Dr. Anirban Ganguly, if there is one message that you want your readers to get from this book, what would it be?
I would like to tell them that please read. And read this book and many such books, because it is necessary to be aware of, to be informed about the entire, this entire saga of what I call the unfinished partition. And the manner in which the Bengali Hindus in East Bengal were neglected, were given up, the trauma and torture that they had to go through, and the manner in which the Congress and the communists exploited them. I have mentioned here the Morijhapi massacre that the communists indulged in, having created their politics based on the refugee movement. So this is a saga of betrayal also. And therefore the last betrayal was when they opposed the CAA, on the ground that why would it define a Hindu and a Buddhist and a Christian as a refugee. So my message would be this, that I think we have to read, we have to express ourselves, and we have to make sure that the conspiracy of silence, the lid of silence, is completely broken on this chapter of post-independent India's history. And people, leaders like Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, Dr. Ambedkar, Pandit Lakkikanta Moitra, and all the others whom I have quoted here, who are now faced with who have been for decades, who have faced a silence, should be brought back into our narrative.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Anirban Ganguly, for joining us. So please read this book. It's interesting. I have read this. Okay, so I got to know about several characters which I had not known earlier. So you must read this book and you must subscribe this and like this.